Italy? Whiskey? Ah, Italy, you could never look my secret. Oh no, suddenly. Hello, Libby! Let's begin. Indeed.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. My name is Brian, and this is the Fireside Chat. Sorry about the late start. Had some issues with, sound. So, as you know, really quick, I have a new machine. It's extremely powerful, but that means that all of the work that I did on my old machine, I have to do over. And you don't want to know the grisly details of exactly how much was involved with getting that set up, but I'm having to go through it again. So, I got to do the 12 trials of Hercules to get this working. And even now, it's just working for now. This isn't like the final build, as it were. This is haphazardly thrown together. But welcome to the show, Guy Jackson.
Thanks, Brian.
So this is, thanks for coming on. This is a little bit different from how we normally do things. Usually I reach out to someone and I ask them to come on, but you reached out to me in this case.
Yep,
so tell us a little bit about who you are and what's your connection with men's issues and stuff.
I mean, I've always been I say always, the past 10 years or so, I've been involved in the men's rights movement in some capacity. Just advocating for things, trying to do what I can really. I wrote an article for AVFM around about when I got started. Also in real life, sometimes I'll do things like one of the main things I try to do is convincing people not to circumcise their children, because that's a huge issue for me. That's one of the big things, is because there's a lot of Muslims around where I used to live as well, and because in England it's not a common thing. It's pretty much just Muslims that circumcise their children, so I'll try and start a conversation with them about it and explain why not to do it, with very limited success, obviously, but with religious people. But I've managed to change a few minds. So yeah.
So you're would you say that male genital mutilation is is that your primary everybody's got their main men's issue? Is that yours?
I'd say the most important is children getting father's rights and men getting custody of their children. To me, that's the most important, but it's a close second. And then, the reason I'm coming on today is to talk about sexual violence against men, and that is also a really huge one for me too.
Yeah, so when you messaged me about it, you said that you wanted to talk about it. So I guess
yes.
My first question is what do you want to bring up? And you also said, well, we can get into that later, but there was something about some blind spots or criticisms you have of what we do here.
I wouldn't say necessarily criticism. I just feel like there's maybe a few little pieces of the puzzle that are missing. Because with male and female relationships, it's so complicated and there are so many factors. It's a hard thing to catch everything. I think there's maybe a few areas where that you guys might be missing. But the main reason I wanted to come on is to sort of speak about my experience with sexual violence, and because I don't think I've ever seen a man that's been victimized by a woman openly speak out. Full identity out there, face out there, and actually open. And there's so many victims, because we've all seen the stats, but just so many. I've never seen it, and I feel like it would be a good thing to do, to come out and openly speak about my experience, and at least show other men that even I'm not saying I expected the men to do this kind of thing, but just maybe talk to a friend about it, or because I know there's a hell of a lot of shame. A hell of a lot of shame, and a lot of men are they just do not want to speak to anybody about it. And even if it's reaching out to a friend to speak to them about it, or reaching out for therapy, or something like that. Even if I can encourage 1 or 2 men to do that, that would be fantastic for me.
Yeah. All right. Well, then why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience, like what you're willing to
Sure.
share at least. So
Sure. So when I was a child, I'd say around about 9 or 10, I was sexually abused by someone that I really respected. They would have been around about 17, 18 at the time, and they basically got me on my own, got me to do certain things with them, and then tried to have sex with me. And I was a kid, had no, I don't think I'd even ever had an erection at that point. Had no idea what was going on. She got me to touch her down there, and then tried to push. She was really aggressive, and it almost felt like she was angry with me that I didn't know what to do. She sort of pushed me down onto the toilet and tried to mount me, and I was just terrified. And
was she
yeah,
like a relative or
yeah,
a
yeah.
relative? Okay.
It was someone I really looked. I thought she was so cool. I really looked up to her.
Yeah.
And it messed me up, but because I think going after that experience, going through the rest, going through growing up and stuff. It's not really something that was widely talked about when I was a kid. It's a bit different now, but I just had no context to place it in. Women. There's no real knowledge of women can do damage to boys and do damage to men. So yeah, the only narrative you do hear is that male sexuality is the dangerous sexuality. So it was hard to process it and have any kind of context to put it in. So I almost just tried to brush it off, and when I was getting older, just try and brush it off and just pretend like it didn't happen. And sort of one thing I'd tell myself is, it was only a woman that did it to me, so at least I didn't get abused by a guy. And just sort of try and minimize it. Really, I'd know. Funnily enough, what really helped me realize how much it had screwed me up was coming into contact with the men's movement and hearing them talk about it. That's what encouraged me to go and get help.
So you're saying that you didn't even know that it was something that could happen to boys until you heard it talked about by people in the men's movement?
I wouldn't say that. I mean,
or like maybe your experience, you sort of like treated it like you normalize it in your mind.
I wouldn't necessarily say. What I'd say is, growing up, I would have been a lot older when I'd come into what I'd even ever heard of that happening to a boy. And by that point, I've already my mind's already put it into whatever context it's put it into. And yeah, like it caused a lot of things. I had a lot of anger issues, sexuality wise as well. Like I always felt guilty for wanting sex and when I was having sex. And I think the one thing that really fucked me up was the narrative around male sexuality. When you've experienced something like that, and then you're being told your sexuality is the one that's dangerous and harmful, I think that really put a lot of shame on top, a further shame on top of sex for me. So yeah,
well, that's the point, is to make you feel ashamed of what you are as a man. At least in my opinion, in part, at least. Yeah. So did anyone else, did you ever go to anyone about this, or was there ever any consequences of any kind to the person who did this to you?
No consequences. I didn't make any kind of report about it until I was a long time afterwards. So I wouldn't expect there to be consequences.
Yeah.
But sorry, what was the other thing you asked me?
Well, that's what I'm wondering, is that if there was anything that ever happened to that person. How long has it been? How old are you now? Out of curiosity.
Now I'm 40, so it would have been about that would have been about 30 years ago.
Yeah, so 30 years ago. And of that person, It was probably like almost 50 at this point. So did you ever, like, this was someone you were close to and they were older than you. It was a woman, right? And or was it at least like a young adult at the time, now a grown woman. And what the other part of my question was, if you, obviously, even if you did file a report at this point, it wouldn't really matter. But my question was, did anyone else in the, family or in the community learn about this? And was there or were there any sort of like consequences or whatever came out of this? Like, do you still talk to the person? Do you yeah.
So yeah, like the only person I told up until, like I said, coming into contact with the men's movement was my girlfriend. I minimized it at the time, and I don't really remember what she said, to be honest, but it's not something that was made a huge deal of. It was just a conversation. I told her what happened, and I mean, I'm sure she would have been supportive, but I don't really remember the conversation. And other than that, up until coming into contact with the men's movement, I didn't tell a soul. After I realized the damage and that I needed help, then I told a few people. I told my mom, told my family members. My sister actually used it against me because she's a scumbag.
Wait. Okay. First of all, isn't it interesting that you don't remember how the conversation went with your girlfriend? Like, I mean, like maybe you did something, like, mentally you blocked it out or something. I mean, I think it's just because this is not like a small thing.
I think I get what you're getting at. I think it's a little from column A and a little from column B here. I think I've not got the best memory of what happened when I told her, and I do think, and also that she didn't. I mean, like, if a woman that I was seeing told me that, for instance, she'd remember my reaction, because it wouldn't just be a one-time conversation, and me not doing or saying anything else to support her. So yeah.
Yeah,
I do think it's partly both.
And why did what do you mean by your sister use it against you?
Oh, she's just an absolutely awful person. Like, she actually phoned my cousin because she found out I was reporting it. She phoned my cousin, told her, and took her side, and just kept making jokes to people about it.
So this person was your cousin that did this to you?
Yeah, I didn't want to.
Yeah, but you did. You said
I've.
Okay, no, that's fair. I mean, look, it's better than that, than like a sister parent, I guess, but it's still not good.
Well, yeah,
but,
she actually even made jokes about it in front of my nephew. Would have been about 6 or 7 at the time. Made jokes about it in front of my nephew. Like, she's just a really awful person. I'm low contact with most of my family now, anyway. So
yeah.
Because my mom wasn't exactly amazing about it either.
So okay, so this sounds like, I mean, it's obviously bad, but what's really bad is that you have people that you really trust, like your family, and they don't appear to be taking it as seriously as they should.
I mean, I don't think they're the best sample size for that, though. Like I said,
but your mother and your sister, like, they're kind of close. I mean, I'm not saying your mom threw you under the bus. I don't know, but like, you would think that they would want to, like, they would treat your desire to protect their children like at the highest priority, right? And siblings, I mean, it's not fun. Like, I don't think that this is I think it's monstrous that the way that they reacted, and
my brother, I've only complained about the negative. My brother was fantastic. Like, funnily enough, well, I disclosed 2 things. I haven't gotten on to my next experiences yet, but
okay, there was another experience.
Yeah. I did. Well, there's a few more, but I disclosed to my brother, and like, a lot of people, this wouldn't be the best thing to say to a lot of people, so I'm not advocating for this, but he just pointed at me and said, "Ha, you got sexually abused." Like, and it just made me feel a lot better, because then I knew, he's still gonna be my brother. He's not gonna treat me like some what's the expression I'm looking for? Some He's not going to treat me like I'm made of glass. And then after that, he was great, and we talked about it, and he was really supportive. But it just made me feel a lot, because that's one of the biggest fears of a lot of men, that everyone's going to just look at them like, look at them like a victim and treat them like they're made of glass. And I did not want that. So it made me feel
like
a
shrinking violet, I think, is what you were trying to say.
Yeah. But I feel like that's the best expression. Like just being treated like you're made of being treated like you're made of glass.
So your brother was very supportive. Is he like an older brother or a younger brother?
Younger.
Okay, and your sister is older or younger?
Younger. I'm the oldest of my.
Oh, you're the oldest. Okay, all right. So I think that if this happened to you at 10, and it wasn't completed, or what, were you raped, or was it just like something that came close? Do you remember?
Well, we didn't have sex, that's for sure. Like I said, I wasn't even capable.
You didn't know what an erection was. So there was at least sexual abuse. You just don't.
Yeah, I don't mind going into detail. I'm just not sure how graphic you want me to be.
No, it's okay. You don't have to. I just wanted to get an idea of how far this girl got, before it stopped, and whatever stopped it. Like, did you just push her off? Like, how did it? Do you remember that?
I honestly don't remember how it stopped. I just remember she got angry with me. I think she got pissed off and stopped it. But yeah, like what happened after, I don't really remember.
Yeah, see, that's another thing that, I mean, you might just have, because I have a bad memory too, but you may have blocked it out. I'm not saying that, I'm not going to try to tell you what happened, obviously, but you would think that would stick to someone,
I think I blocked it out, to be honest, because I normally do have a good memory. So yeah, like that's the only explanation. I mean, I can still remember things from when I was a toddler. So
right,
I'm pretty sure I would have blocked it out.
Yeah. And then there was, you said there was another experience after this?
Well, there was actually a few. I mean, I got regularly sexually assaulted in school for a period of about a couple of months by a girl. She just constantly grabbed my ass. Because I mean, obviously, being a victim of abuse, you do sort of withdraw a lot. So I wasn't confident in school. I got bullied a lot. And I used to have a place to go to on break where there's a teacher there and a group of people that got around and hung out, and she just always used to hang out on the staircase to that, and every time I'd go past, she would sexually assault me. She'd chase me, grab my ass. Yeah, like that wasn't good, but yeah.
And you didn't I mean, how old were you when this was going on?
Would have been 14. She was in a year above me, so she'd been a year or two above me. She'd been 15, 16.
Well, when you're about 14, you would start taking an interest in the opposite sex. And I think that maybe, do you know why she would do this? Like, was she attracted to you, and that was just the way that she expressed it? Was she a bully, and she, how did it make you feel?
If I had to guess, she was just a high school mean girl, kind of thing, and she just got off on the power of it. That's what, if I had to guess, that's what I'd say. Yeah, like it made me feel crap. Obviously, I mean, like I felt powerless to do anything about it because she was one of the popular. This is what I mean. I can't think of any of the motivation because I was not a popular guy in school. She was probably the most popular girl in her year. Like she was really conventionally attractive. So I can't think of any other motivation. But yeah, like it certainly didn't help with my issues. Let's just say that to go through that. And then my next experience would have been maybe at 15 when I had my first kiss. It's a really strange situation because I'd never met a celebrity before, and I was actually at a celebrity's house party. And
oh, really?
Yeah, like a really bizarre situation because she actually was hitting on me, but I bottled it. I was terrified. Never met a celebrity, and I've got a female. She's famous in my country on a televised soap
What was her name? What's her name? Do you know, or do you not want to share?
I know her first, and her first name is Verity. She was on a soap called Emmerdale.
Emmerdale? I'm just looking.
Emmerdale, yeah. And
is it like one word? Emmerdale, like a place?
Emmerdale.
Oh, okay. Emmerdale, and what's the character's name? Or her name? I mean, Grace.
I can't remember the character's name. The woman's name was Verity.
Verity, Verity. That's a weird name.
Verity.
Oh, okay. Verity is a weird name.
Yeah.
Verity Rushworth, British actress. Okay. Known for portraying the role of Donna Windsor in the ITV soap opera Emmerdale from 1998 to 2009. All right.
Yeah.
I was just curious. So you went to, she was at a party and you were there?
Yeah, and I ended up making out with one of her friends, like pretty intense makeout session. It was actually my first kiss, and and she wanted to take me outside, and I don't know what for. I can only guess, but for some reason I was really scared and I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Probably because of my past experiences, and the entire party tried to force me to go outside with her. Like they were literally, I was fighting for them not to push me through the door, and they were all physically trying to force me through the door.
And you were like 15, 16?
Yeah, I think I would have been 15 at the time.
And how old was this woman? Was she a lot older than you at the time?
No. So round about the same age.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just not a good experience for like the fact they were all trying to force me to go out there and do whatever with her. But yeah, that was so that.
So wait.
I don't know how to frame that situation other than it was. I mean, I don't think necessarily anything criminal happened there, but it just wasn't a positive experience that they were trying to force me to go out there and go out there with her.
Yeah. So, okay. So you said because I just want to like understand the details here. Were you making out with a girl who was a friend of this celebrity?
Yeah.
At the party, you were just making out with her. You weren't.
Mm-hmm.
Were you dating her before? Was she like a girlfriend?
No. This is
you met at the party.
Yeah, I was visiting my cousins, like in a city quite far away, so I didn't know these people at
all. And you just I mean the making out doesn't seem non-consensual. Like it was.
Oh no, it wasn't. It was just that
there, and you were
like the experience of of them trying to force me to go outside with her to do whatever because she wanted to go outside with me to do something.
Outside, like in public?
No, into their back garden.
Okay, so she wanted you to take it further out in the back garden, and there was a bunch of people pushing for this, like they wanted you to do that.
Yeah, they saw that I didn't want to, and she was trying to pressure me to go outside with her to do whatever, and then they all just ganged up with her and tried to physically force me out of the door to go with her.
Okay. And you were not comfortable with that. So you
yeah, that's an understatement. I was
really,
I was I just had a real gut reaction of just being scared and just felt like I was fighting for my life. I had like probably 4 or so people trying to push me out of the door. So yeah.
Okay. And what ended up happening with that?
No, nothing. I just it's really weird. I ended up making out with one of her other friends at the party, and then that just went home. It wasn't. They just gave up really after a bit, and just the party went back to normal.
You don't seem to like struggle too much with hooking up with girls, but you. Like it seems that way based on maybe you were just lucky that night. I don't know, but
I had a lucky night. I'm not bad with ladies, but I struggle more on the other side of actually having interest, and I think that
having interest.
Just having interest in any particular woman, and I'm not one for casual sex either. That's one of the weird things is you don't know, is this naturally how I am, or is this the result of the things that have happened to me? And you just sort of have to make peace with that. And I mean, I'm happy with who I am now, but yeah, it's a weird thing not to know, is this just how I would have been if that hadn't happened to me, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Let me think here.
I can move on to the next experience if you like.
Yeah,
That's,
move on. There's another one.
This
Okay.
was the final. This was the final now. This was the one I actually really wanted to talk about because I've heard men talk about childhood sexual abuse. This was actually me as an adult being raped by a woman, which is the one that really isn't talked about. I've never seen a man speak about this, which is why I wanted to do it. So yeah, basically, I made some stupid mistakes getting into this situation. I was dating this woman. I let her come back to my house. I had drinks with her, even though I was very upfront with her and said, "Look, I don't want to. I don't jump into sexual relationships. I don't want to have sex." I made that very clear to her. A few drinks deep, and she was basically trying to. She kept trying to pressure me to have sex. She'd stop for a bit and then try again, and this went on for about 3 or so hours. Eventually, I let her go down on me, which I didn't mind so much. I was kind of okay to do that, and then she started pressuring me again to have sex, and I did, which I still consider consensual. Even though she was pressuring me, I still consented. So when she started having sex with me, she was really aggressive. Like she got on top of me. She was pinning my arms down, sort of biting my neck and just being super aggressive. And I fucking hated it. And I wanted. So I told her to stop 2 or 3 times. She didn't stop. I physically, because she was pinning my arms down, I physically pushed back and tried. I pushed her a bit. I guess maybe I was being gentle because she was a woman at first, but I was putting some force into it, like trying to get her off me. And she just wouldn't. Like I must have said stop 5 or 6 times. Pushed her a bit, and then she reinserted force, pushed me back down, and just would not get off. And at that point I just froze, let it continue, and yeah, like eventually I came out of it and just flipped her over, and got off. But yeah, like it was not good.
Yeah. So, what happened after you got her to stop?
I curled up into the fetal position and didn't get out of it for a while. Yeah, like it was messed up, and then I guess she tried to comfort me, and we ended up after a while going to sleep. But yeah, like it was that really messed me up. It was kind of the final nail in the coffin for me. And I was really, after that, I was in a really bad place for a long time again until I came into contact with the men's movement. That was really a pivotal moment in my life, coming into contact with the men's movement.
How old were you when that happened?
25. And this is something I want to say. I'm a big guy. I can physically defend myself. Like I'm 6'4", strong. I've trained in martial arts, so I don't want any guys that have experienced this to feel like it's something shameful, something that's some kind of devastating blow to your status as a man, or something you should be ashamed of, or it makes you weak somehow. Like it doesn't, like and I don't want guys to be ashamed to speak out about it, or like I said, seek help, because like it can happen to anyone. Like drugged or have a weapon used on them or whatever. It doesn't make you, or even if you aren't strong enough to fight someone off, it doesn't make you any less of a man. And it's nothing to be ashamed of.
Of course, yeah. So when you found the men's movement, I guess, like how did that happen? Like how did you even find them?
On YouTube. I got into what I think the first thing I got into watching was do you remember The Amazing Atheist?
Of course.
Yeah, I watched a few of his videos, and then you get sort of in the recommended. I think maybe the first person I came into contact with.
Why were you watching The Amazing Atheist?
I can't even remember how I found the
Yeah,
video.
was it just like the humor? Because I guess he just.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it would have been the humor. I think I was quite interested in the sort of what was going on in America with atheism, because I think I was watching a bit of Atheist Experience at the time. That would have ended up my recommended feed, and then I came into contact with, I can't remember whether it was Karen first or whether it was TLDR, but it was one of the two. But the one that really got me was Karen.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
sure
usually
that's
how it goes.
everybody. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
everybody's
that's
experience, right?
everybody's experience. Yeah.
But yeah, like her, the Badgers, other people in the men's movement, they saved my life, because I was a hermit, depressed, didn't leave my house, as much as possible, didn't leave my house, didn't interact with people. Yeah, and they saved my life. That was going through the process of learning about the men's movement and sort of learning not to be ashamed of what happened to me, etc., etc. And it made me feel a lot better, and it motivated me to write. I can recognize this has damaged me, and I need to go and seek help. I need to find some help for this, because yeah, I don't want to live like this for the rest of my life.
And I guess someone or you wrote an article for AVFM, so you got really involved.
Yeah.
Involved.
Yeah. I mean, at first, you're really angry and about everything you learn. You've been lied to.
Yeah, red pill rage. Yeah.
And just super motivated. I mean, I'm kind of embarrassed about the article, to be honest, because it was kind of I didn't know anywhere near as much as I know now, and it was quite juvenile, but quite a juvenile article. But yeah, I did write for them.
Okay. Well, when you say it was juvenile, what do you mean? Like you just didn't know as much? You were.
Yeah, just juvenile, as in sort of my development of my views. It was in that sense, it was juvenile, not like childish, but yeah, like juvenile in sense of early on in my learning experience about men's issues and sort of forming my worldview.
Yeah, no, for sure. So what is it that you think you have learned about yourself as I guess like after, everything that's happened and then getting involved with the men's movement and then sort of growing within that space? Like, is there something you've learned about yourself that to help? Because like, I think that one of the reasons why people get involved with this is because if they have an experience in their life, or even like an experience through someone else, that they're trying to understand something about the world and themselves, like maybe something about, like, why am I this way, kind of a thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I learned I could speak for hours about what I learned. I mean, I'd say the most important lesson to get me out of my funk was just, there are other guys out there that have experienced this. I'm not alone. I'm not some kind of freak. And I've got nothing to be ashamed about. That was, I'd say, the key thing I'd learned.
Yeah.
When it comes to the men's issues and stuff, I'd always had like even maybe from a very, very early age, like a spike in my mind almost that there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Kind of, this is one of the reasons I think the Matrix analogy is so good, the red pill, because that's a line from the red pill. He had something in the back of his mind that he knew was wrong. That's exactly how I felt. Like, my earliest memory of having a gendered experience was like probably 3. I was very into reading, and my mum handed me a book of rhymes, and the rhyme was sugar and spice and everything nice. That's what little girls are made of. Slugs and snails and puppy dog tails. That's what little boys are made of. And it really upset me.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, contextualizing that now, I can see like why it would. It's like making you feel like there's something wrong with you based on how you're born. But yeah, I was really upset. I actually just burst out crying when I read it. Like, I was like, it did impact me. So I guess that was my first lesson in there's some real serious gender bias in society. And then just sort of growing up, I had teachers. I had what I can only presume was a radical feminist teacher, she'd made a big show. Whenever we all went outside for PE, she'd make a big show of lining all the boys up on one side, all the girls up on one side, and the girls get to go first.
Yeah.
And once there was she was trying to discipline the class for something, and made us all stay behind, but she let the girls go. Made all the boys stay, and I've always had a real strong sense of fairness and justice, and that really pissed me off at the time. I remember I felt like throwing a desk at her. But
Sure.
yeah, like so there's all sorts of little experiences like that you get growing up, that getting older, sort of noticing slapping men on TV, and or just general abusive behavior, like not letting your man go out to see his friends, and sort of controlling behavior is all just normalized on TV. And that bugged the hell out of me. I remember my girlfriend used to tell me to shut the fuck up about it, because if I saw something like that, I'd be, that's really messed up. So even before coming into contact with the men's movement, I had a strong awareness that there was something wrong.
Yeah.
I was actually a feminist. I used to be a feminist, because I used to believe.
I think that most people used to be feminists, and a lot of them still have some of that sort of like residual feminism, you know. But okay, so we got about 13 minutes, so let's get into your thoughts. I'm gonna look at this thing you sent me, where you said let me see.
Sure, there was one thing I wanted to raise about the rape. One thing,
rape?
Yeah, one thing that really made it difficult, because do you remember me saying that I had very little context as a child? As an adult, experiencing that, I had no context, because I didn't even know it was possible for a woman to rape a man.
Yeah, of course.
That made it very difficult, because I just brushed that off as a bad sexual experience, and didn't even think about it. And I didn't actually even realize what had happened to me until after I decided to get help. You know, like they'll tell you sometimes to write a thought diary, so before you get therapies, or just generally to help you. I did that, and yeah, like writing it down, I realized what had happened to me. Only then, just writing it down, I'm like, holy crap. Then I had a way to contextualize it, because I'd heard men's rights advocates speak about it and say that it's something that happens. Only then did I realize what happened to me. So I felt like that was something important to mention.
Yeah, and I was gonna mention too that it, based on your history, I think that initial sexual assault when you were 10 years old, I think it essentially colored or tainted all your experiences with women, at least sexual ones, after that. So because like when that woman in that last experience, she wanted to do rough sex, you were very uncomfortable, and I think it has something to do with what happened to you as a child. And so this is, I mean, you know, different people have different tastes. A lot of times women don't think that they're fed this idea that men are more sexual than they are. So when they become sexually aggressive, they expect men to like give it back just as much or more. And when not all men do, because just like anybody else, we have different things that we're into.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but I think that assumption, and of course, we don't consider female sexual aggression to be harmful at all. We think it's innocent, you know, in general. So I think that what happened to you as a kid seems to have affected the way that you view intimacy and everything that comes with that. And I don't want to speak for you, but that's just what I get based on your story.
No, of course it does. I mean, it can't not, can it? Like that's another thing you sort of wonder about, like, is how would I express my sexuality if it didn't happen to me? But so I'm a dom sexually, so, and I think that's probably part of the reason why, because I don't want to feel like I'm out of control having sex.
You want to be in control, right?
And I actually do like just normal intimate sex too, but it takes me longer to get to the point where I would feel comfortable with that, and letting go of a bit of control before I'd feel comfortable with being more with doing that, basically.
Yeah. So the other thing, maybe this is connected in some way, but you also said in the message to me, that you might have be able to give some interesting insights into dating dynamics, as it seems like something that is a little overlooked by HBR.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Kevin Samuels, but go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that Kevin Samuels is just part of one of the people I've watched that have given me a bit more insight into dating, because when I first, I feel like I'd say there's 4 groups when it comes to, in the men's movement, when it comes to how they view dating. I feel like you have the PUAs who look at the current situation and say, well, it's hard to find a good long-term mate, so I've got resources, I'm attractive to women, I'm just gonna have fun, basically. You've got the MGTOWs who I think these are all legitimate reactions to the current dating market. You have MGTOWs who just say, okay, I'm out, I'm not even going to interact with women at all, or on a very limited basis. You have traditionalists who want to go back to, back to pre-feminism sort of social norms. And then you have what I would call sort of an equality based. It should be 50-50. Men and women should be equal. And I'd say that's sort of the Tin Man approach to men's rights, of just
the Tin Man approach, which is
I'd say it's almost similar to, it's kind of almost the opposite of the gender reversed version of feminism, where it's a bit, or what's the Reddit group, the sort of left-wing male advocates sort of approach to men's rights.
I think it's just lefty MRAs. I think that's the Reddit group. But I think so. But
well, I'd say it's also a lot of pre-feminist, sort of a lot of guys that were feminists that come into men's rights, and they still have that mentality of, everything should be equal. And they bring it into dating too. I know. I feel like that's unrealistic.
Yeah, I was like that when I started, though. I was like, well, I'm an egalitarian, and the egalitarian sounds really nice and sophisticated and, makes you feel smart. But then, like, the reality is that men and women are not the same, and, like, they'll never be the same. And there's not enough of a distinction between equality and equity to where it's worth even going down that rabbit hole. And it's better to just, like, deal with the issues with people as they are, instead of like how you would like them to be. So I think that with the PUAs, though, and then we can get into your other comments. I got about 5 minutes, so I'm sorry. Maybe I can go a little over. Okay. A little over is okay. We can do this again. But I think that with the PUAs, it's true that a lot of them are just like trying to essentially use what they know about gender dynamics to sleep with as many women as possible, or essentially be able to play the field. But the fact is, and I think the PUAs are aware of this, they don't even call themselves PUAs anymore. They're really just like the red pill now. But it's the same thing, the Rolos and all that, and the fresh and fits and and that kind of thing. They, I think, know that most men, even men who follow their content and try to use their tools, either don't want to be sleeping around with whoever, and they don't think they could because they're not in that top 1 percentile of men that can do that. So they're just trying to use the tools to find someone that they can commit to. It's like, well, it goes back, I think it was Rolo or one of those guys that was basically talking about how, essentially you game your woman, for forever, basically, which is like, to me, it's unsustainable. But I mean, it is like an idea that they put out there. So what I'm saying is, a lot of the guys that use the PUA stuff, they're not trying to sleep with many women. They're just trying to like use it to find a woman. So it's like they see it as a set of tools to like, because I think that most men, they still are, they still want they want kids. They want to.
Oh yeah. I mean, this is what. This is the way I view society, is that most men and women want a family, want kids, they want that. And everything we're doing in society is going against that.
Yeah, it's against our nature. And I think that men, when men learn that they're propagandized, because we're both men and women are being propagandized. They react to it in the way that, you know, comes out of those three things. They either MGTOW, monk, or they become POAs. They exploit the system. They figure out there's a propaganda campaign, and so they like, okay, what's the meta? And then they play the meta to win. And then you have the men's rights advocates or the men's issues advocates that like, well, this has to be changed, and they like fight to change it.
Well, hang on. Let me stop you there a second, because
Yeah.
I don't think there's a really necessarily strong distinction between these, as strong a distinction between these groups as you
No,
think.
I don't think so either. I think there's a lot.
I think there's a lot. Yeah, well, there's most or pretty much all of the PUAs I know and I've come across, they all acknowledge that men's rights issues. It's just like in their lifetime, they're just reacting to it. They're just like, in my lifetime, this isn't going to change, so I'm going to take whatever. And I think they're all equally valid approaches too. I don't think there's, you know, if it works for them and that's how they get through the current social dynamics, I think, you know, hats off to them, man. I mean, like I would prefer that they advocated for men's issues at the same time, and a lot of them do. But yeah, like,
no, I don't disagree. I think there's reality.
I think there's value. I think there's value in all their perspectives too. And I'll give you a good example of that. So when it comes to, I think one piece of advice we can take from, well, you were talking about sort of PUAs and gaming women in a relationship. I think there is an aspect of that that's useful even. So what I would say is, for a married man, right, I think one of the big reasons marriages fail and men end up in dire situations inside a marriage is because of fear. I think they fear the state. They fear having their children taken away and even never getting to see them again, or being a weekend dad. They feel they fear the financial devastation of divorce, and it turns them into an absolute weakling in the relationship. You know, they become a yes dear, and they become sort of the yes dear sort of happy wife, happy life kind, and that will dry up a woman's vagina like anything, like nothing. I mean, so yeah.
Well, more than that, it puts them at risk in constant. They're basically like constantly under the gun because they have to they have to stay well behaved because the state is, you know, backing this woman if she decides.
Yeah.
So it's not just, you know, like, oh, she's got sexual interest, but it's more.
There's that too.
Okay.
My point is that I like Karen's analogy about that, by the way. The sort of, you're in a relationship and the woman's got a loaded gun. I love that analogy. But what I'm saying is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That fear turns these men into the kind of women that the kind of man that these women don't want to deal with. You know, a weak, subservient man. And I feel like this is a really good piece of advice you can give to married men. Don't become that guy. You know, maintain. I hate this phrase because it sounds cringy, but maintain your frame. You know, like
for sure.
Stay the same guy that you were. You know, stand up for yourself. Keep your boundaries. Don't put up with bullshit, because if you don't, it will become a self-fulfilling prophecy, that fear, and it will ruin your marriage.
Yeah,
so I feel like that's something that's just one example of something you can take from the sort of PUA side of things that is really good advice that men's rights advocates can give to men.
Oh yeah, well we do talk about that. We actually have. I don't know if you still watch our streams. I know they're fraught with peril, and a lot of people don't have the patience for it. But we do a lot of shows where we talk about relationship dynamics and stuff. I mean, like, I don't know if it's, you know, I'm married, Allison's married, and we do most of the shows. So maybe we're not out there playing the field, obviously, but at least we know what a successful, healthy relationship looks like. I'm going to be 10 years married in December, and I met my wife doing this work. She was interested in this stuff, so that's probably a big help. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
you got lucky there, man. I mean, your wife seems like a really nice woman. I've seen you guys interacting. She seems like a fantastic woman, man. So you hit the jackpot.
Yeah, well, thank you. But so yeah, no, I don't so like one time in 2019, my last guest was a guy, I think his name was Jonathan, and he runs a YouTube channel called It's Complicated. You know about that? It's like
No,
a
I've not,
man on
come
the
across that.
street kind of thing where he like
I think I have seen him.
microphone.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, you probably have because he's pretty big. And he asked me something similar to what you said. He said, why isn't MRAs, PUAs, and MGTOW haven't like sat down and had a debate or a discussion? And I said, oh, but they have, because I organized one in 2019 for the International Conference on Men's Issues, because I knew that they're not even that, like I said, they're not that different.
Mm-hmm.
They just have they're usually working with the same knowledge, not completely, but they just have different I wouldn't even call it antidotes, but more like treatments for it. And they often, sort of exist in multiple worlds. Like Paul Elam is like the MRA, like he's like the face of men's rights activism, but he also is someone who considers himself like he's very pro MGTOW, and he's vocally been pro MGTOW, and he even to some degree considers himself MGTOW, even though he has a live-in partner. And I think it's because they have an understanding about their relationship, and it's like he's basically like I have one foot out the door in case anything happens. And I think that I've met Paul's partner. They're not married, but they're that's why I say that. I'm not using new language. And I think that it's a good arrangement, as a good arrangement for him as you could get, especially for somebody his age. So no, I'm not at all like, I don't have a problem with any of the PUA guys. Like I'm probably one of the few.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't think you did. Don't worry.
No, I'm probably one of the few people on this channel that does not like lose my mind when the word Andrew Tate is dropped or Fresh and Fit is dropped. It doesn't bother me. Like I don't care.
Me either.
So and
me either. I think I hate the sort of crazy reactionary stuff about what he says some dumb shit that I don't agree with, but the guy actually makes some really good. He actually makes a lot of MRA arguments too. And I think one thing I actually like about those guys is, this is something I'd say about Kevin Samuels too. They had a lot of empathy for men. They recognised how shit the situation for working men is, and how poorly a lot of women view working class guys. Even the average woman looks at a working class guy like he's beneath her, and she's doing him a favor by dating him.
Yeah, well, the women, I think that's right. We know that that's true because we've seen it. So
I think they get a bad rap because they focus on the high value thing, and I think they focus on sort of how can high value men find a good woman, and how men can self-improve to become high value. And I think a lot of people have a reaction to that. Well, I'm not a high value man, and they get jealous and they sort of have this fuck you mentality towards them. But I think they're a positive for men too. Like I wouldn't say necessarily Andrew Tate, because I think a lot of his views are a bit wacky, but someone like Kevin Samuels or the Whatever Podcast or Fresh and Fit, like they sort of self-improve. If this is what you want, this is how you can get it, basically. And I think they're generally a net positive.
Yeah,
they might not, like Fresh and Fit, for example. They might be a bit douchebags, but and speak to people rudely at times. But like I don't think they're a negative. I would say.
No, I don't either. Well, the thing is, I'm not even like my whole thing has always been from the beginning to see the conversation expand beyond what we were doing here, and to see more people having it. And that was always my goal. And I never was under the impression or delusion that people were going to be having conversations the way that I think they should be having them. Like, that I should be the one in charge of how this conversation happens. I just want it to happen. So like the fact that you have it from all across the spectrum of different kinds of people with different, interests, or like a different way they got into it, and they have different belief systems. So it's not just like what I see happening. The Whatever Podcast has the approach of, well, let's just bring on some girls and let's get it from the horse's mouth. And those girls, they expose themselves. Like they just go on there and they say what they believe, and we just get a picture into what they're like.
Well, I think it's just like I find it an interesting show to watch. You can get repetitive at times.
Yeah,
And some of the conversations like, oh, this crap again. But it's interesting in terms of just the social dynamics aspect of it. Like,
for sure.
what do these people think? Why do they think it?
Well, and
There's
you're
stress. There's stress. Sometimes there's a lot of stress testing of ideas on there.
Oh, for
There's
sure. And you're looking at like basically most of the girls on there. They all have OnlyFans. They're trying to promote. They're trying to make money on the platform. Not all of them. I don't know. I don't watch it enough, but I know a lot of them
Funnily enough,
are selling a product.
Funny enough,
What?
it's a small percentage of them. I think it's something like 20% of the women they have on there are OnlyFans girls.
Creators. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the point is, there's a lot of like normie voices, right, that are talking about this. And so you get a sense of like where the conversation is going,
Yeah.
and how it's evolving. So, on the whatever podcast, it was like just started off as like, I'm gonna, do what Fresh and Fit does, have a bunch of like attractive girls on. People will tune in just for that, and then we'll put a microphone in front of them and have them respond to things. But then you get like, people like Andrew Wilson, who's like a, super like paleo conservative, Orthodox Christian debate bro that goes and debates people on feminism, and he like brings the history, and his wife wrote a book on it. And then you have people like us. So it's like all over the spectrum, the conversation is taking place. And some people have, wacky ideas on it, or whatever, but it doesn't matter to me because it's happening. And hopefully if the conversation continues and it stays robust and it stays, where like the best arguments come out on top, then I think that I will have succeeded, or we will have succeeded in getting that ball rolling, and that's what I think is going to happen. Because like, what is it? Chloe Roma and some of these female MRAs that have come out recently. I don't know if you know, but it's Chloe Roma,
I'm aware of her.
Emily King and the Advocate. They're all massive, and and they have their own approach. And you mentioned the Tin Men, he was promoted by Chloe Roma. And I think that that's all good too. I mean, like
it's really good, but it's a bit of I've got a bit of ambivalence because it also really annoys me because they're absolutely nowhere near as sharp as people like Paul, you and you guys at the Honey Badgers. And
I agree.
It really pisses me off.
No, I agree, but I mean, it is what it is. Like, I think the other thing too is that
positive.
Some of those people, they have a lot more of a. They haven't been doing this as long as we have, so they're like. They're still, let's say, a bit naive in terms of like how they think things should go, and they're not. I'm not black-pilled, but like I'm realistic. I know like the truth about reality. I understand, or at least I'm understanding it better. I don't want to claim to be, a genius, but like I think they're still like low level, but they're prominent, and I think part of it is because they're operating at a level that is acceptable for the mainstream. So like. This is why
acceptable.
Well, because this is why the Tin Men guy can be like, he'll say, well, we don't want to be like Andrew Tate. He's a piece of garbage. But I'm a men's rights advocate, and that's why his platform is bigger because he is condemning the correct people while still making these arguments, right?
Yeah.
This keeps him in a safe trajectory. Yeah,
it helps. Yeah, it's like a bit of a neutered version of men's rights advocacy, like the way I view it. But at the end of the day, like it's all a net positive. It's all moving. You're right. It's all.
I agree. It's all a net positive. That's what I say, and it's all going in the right direction. Yeah.
You mentioned Paul Elam, and one thing I'll say about Paul is if you want dating advice on how to vet, because this is something I feel that like men are really weak at, vetting women. If you want dating advice, learn how to vet women well. Paul is the best guy to go to for that. His videos on dating are absolutely top tier.
Yeah.
I think he's fantastic at that.
Well, I mean, I live near Paul. I see him sometimes, and we
cool.
have lunch and hang out. So yeah, he's a good man. All right, well, Guy, is there any last words you have? Because we gotta go. I gotta pick up the wife and stuff. So, do you have any final thoughts before I end the show?
Yeah, no, nothing I can think. I mean, like, I'd definitely like to get more into the topic with you. But yeah, like, I think this is a good place to start.
We can do another one of these sometime. soon.
Oh,
I have a guy I got to talk to on Sunday night because he's in Australia, so it's going to be a Monday morning show for him. And he's done a lot of research into UN women, and so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, thank you, Guy, for coming on the show. And guys, if you want to follow him on X, we're calling it X now. Then go check that out. It's in the description of this video. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notifications, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed in the show today. And please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thank you guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Fireside Chat, and we will talk to you guys in the next one.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.